Hello everybody, Shrouded Hand here. It's a couple of days before Christmas as I'm recording this, and I know I'm not going to have a chance to make a full-length video this week, so I'm just picking a couple of topics that I find mildly interesting, and I'm going to make some shorter videos about them. This one's something that I found while I was working on the video about artists that sold their soul to the devil. It didn't really fit in with that topic, but I still wanted to cover it because it kind of scratches that itch that I have for weird British folklore tales. Some of the oldest and most interesting folklore comes from Wales, a place where I spent most of my childhood, although this story is a lot more modern than most of Wales's ancient mythology. Swansea is a city on the south coast of Wales, and in its centre is St Mary's Church. The church has been there since the 14th century, but it's been rebuilt many times over the years. Sometime in the 1890s it was decided that the church would be rebuilt once again, and so many architects from across the land applied for the contract of rebuilding St Mary's. There was a local man who really wanted the job, but the contract went to a well-known English architect called Sir Arthur Blomfield. The local architect who didn't get the job, I can't find his name on any records, so I'm just going to call him Jack from now on. So anyway, Jack was really insulted at not getting the job to rebuild St Mary's, and so when the new church was completed in 1896, he vowed to exact his revenge. Several years later, a row of houses opposite St Mary's went up for sale, and Jack bought them. He tore down the houses and built a red brick building, which eventually became the offices for the local brewery. He carved a strange wooden figure of the devil and hung it on the wall of the building, facing the church. The carving was noted for its sinister, piercing eyes, which seemed to stare directly at St Mary's. As people gathered to see the opening of this new building, Jack laughed and said to them, "When your church is destroyed and burnt to the ground, my devil will remain laughing." Of course, most people would have scoffed at this, and they probably found their skepticism vindicated as decades went by and no fire had burnt down St Mary's. But still, the devil remained there, ever vigilant, with his odd smile and knowing eyes glaring at the church. Then, during World War II, disaster struck. Over the course of 3 nights in February 1941, German Luftwaffe planes heavily bombed Swansea in an event which became known as the 3-Night Blitz. The bombing was so extensive that 230 people died and over 7,000 lost their homes. Large sections of Swansea were burned to the ground, including St Mary's Church. There was, however, one building which seemed to escape unscathed: the red brick brewery office with its wooden devil. There it was, among all its destruction, smiling down on the burned remains of St Mary's Church. The church was rebuilt once again. The brewery offices were demolished in 1962, and the Swansea Devil went completely missing. It was eventually found 2 decades later in storage at an antique dealer's in Gloucester. It was eventually brought back to Swansea after a local campaign to return it. By that time, the Quadrant shopping centre had been built on the site of the old brewery offices. It was decided that the Swansea Devil would be placed in the shopping centre in a position where it could still look over St Mary's Church. So that's why, for the last 39 years, visitors to this modern-looking shopping centre were greeted by this strange old wooden devil watching over them. As of 2019, the Swansea Devil was moved to the Swansea Museum so that it could be properly preserved, although the museum owners were careful to position the sculpture in a place where it could still watch over the church. There is something weird about this statue. I've noticed that in every photograph it seems to have a different facial expression. It's probably because of how it's been sculpted. Its face seems to change depending on what angle you view it at, but it's still kind of creepy. Another thing I can't ignore is those eyes. Why has a wooden sculpture got glass eyes? It looks like it's been carved from one big piece of wood, so why wouldn't the sculptor just carve the eyes from the wood at the same time? Well, in older photographs it looks like the sculpture did have wooden eyes, although it's hard to tell from these grainy pictures. The eyes definitely look different. Then in these photos from the 80s, when the devil was found in Gloucester, the eyes look like they might have been damaged. Again, it's very hard to tell from the picture. Why would the eyes get damaged when the rest of the sculpture looks relatively unscathed? Were they deliberately destroyed for some reason? At some point after it returned to Swansea, it seems like the devil was repainted and had new eyes put in, but I can't find any mention of this online. Maybe there's a viewer from Swansea who might be able to shed more light on the mystery of the devil's eyes, so if you can, then please get in contact and I'll put an update in the description. It's just a weird detail that I noticed from looking at pictures of it, and I wanted to know more, but I just couldn't find anything else on it. Okay, so that's the story of the Swansea Devil. Mildly interesting. I find things like this interesting. I hope you do as well. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks to everyone on Patreon who's been supporting the channel. I couldn't keep going without you, so thank you very much. If you enjoyed this, I've got another video about a creepy devil statue, the Lincoln Imp. It should be on screen now if you want to watch that as well. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out. Okay. Until next time, goodbye.